Hi guys, welcome back to Team BMC. I'm Rachel Carr, I'm a GB climbing coach, and today I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to warm up for your fingerboarding. Now you may or may not have seen my last video where I was talking about how to get started in fingerboarding. If you missed it, you can check it out on our YouTube channel. And if not, you'll have seen that I talked about the best way to start getting going, to building up into things, and to hanging safely on the fingerboard. Now all this is great and it's really useful and you should definitely try it, but first you should really know how to warm up properly. So that's what I'm going to give you some tips on today. So one of the first tools we're going to use is a lacrosse ball or a tennis ball or any sort of ball that you can find around the house. It can be hard, it can be soft, but we're going to use it for some self-massage. If you have a harder ball like a lacrosse ball, it's going to be pretty good for beating out those tight knots that you might have, but if you're not used to this, I would recommend starting with the tennis ball, because if you have any stiff muscles that you're not aware of and you've never had a sports massage before, like fingerboarding, you want to take it nice and easy when you start, otherwise you might get a bit of a shock. So what we're going to do with this is we're literally just going to use this wall behind me. I'm going to lean on it and I'm going to roll around on it. And basically when I find a tight spot, I'm going to hang around on it for a few seconds. And this is just loosening off my muscles. If I'm doing fingerboarding every day, I'm going to be using the same muscles in my shoulders all the time, and they're probably going to get quite tight and quite knotted. And we need to make sure that we loosen those off before you get started, because otherwise you might get a niggle or tweak something. When you're doing this, you don't want to be doing it for more than 2 minutes on any area, so it should be a quick hit over every muscle. If you're doing it on a rest day, you can do it for a little bit longer, but for a warm-up purpose, you probably only want to be spending about 30 seconds on any tight sections. And when you're doing it, you want to try and get your entire back, so all the way from your shoulders right down to your hips, and you want to even get your pecs as well. If you can get across this front section here, it's going to be really good for loosening those up, because when you're hanging, you are engaging those as well. So the next thing we're going to do is some finger glides. This is simply this movement. All this does is get the tendon moving slowly through the pulley in a nice controlled way, in the way that's meant to be going basically. It's originally given as a rehab exercise for finger injuries, but I find it so useful to do for all of my warm-ups, because if you do it for long enough and controlled enough, you can get a bit of a pump going on as well. So just take both hands, start straight, going through this movement, keeping your fingers really close to your palms, and then straighten it back up again. And I would literally do it at this pace and do it for about 15 to 20 reps, and then you're going to feel a little bit of pump in your forearms and your fingers are going to be a little bit warmer for when you start to pull on them. Okay, so by now you should have done your self-massage, got nice and loose, your finger glides to get your fingers a little bit warm and get a little bit of movement into them. But now we need to get some movement into our shoulders, because although all we're really going to be doing is hanging from a board, we are going to be using quite a few muscles to do this, and we need to make sure that before we jump onto that board, those muscles are a little bit prepared. So what we're going to use next is a sarabande. This one is just the lightest one you can get from Decathlon. It has actually snapped, so it's a little bit short for me, but I'm still going to use it anyway. I would recommend getting a super duper light one, because the aim for this is not to get totally pumped out in like 5 or 6 reps. You want to make sure that you can do at least 12 reps and ideally 3 sets of each exercise. So make sure you keep it nice and easy to start with and don't overdo it. There's just a few exercises that we can do, and they should get your shoulders nice and engaged, but in order to do that you have to make sure that your posture is correct throughout all of these. So whenever you're doing them, similar to when we're on the fingerboard, we're going to tense our core and we're going to keep our shoulders down away from our ears and pulling backwards. So we're not going to curve forwards, we're not going to lift them up, they're going to pull back and sink down. So just remember to do that throughout all of these. Okay, so for the first one, we're actually going to do a bit more of a mobility exercise. I've folded my band in half to make it a bit stronger. If it's too loose, you can pull your arms wider apart and it kind of defeats the purpose of the exercise. And all we're going to do is we're going to try and do a full rotation of our arms, keeping them as close together as possible. Now ideally I'd be starting with my hands a little bit wider apart, but like I said, I snapped my sarabande, so this is as wide as they can go just now. So, like I said before, when I'm doing this, my shoulders are staying down away from my ears. So if I show you from the front, they are not creeping up at all, they're still quite in control when I'm doing this. And the more I do, the closer together my hands should get, but obviously it stops at a certain point, like I can't get past here without getting stuck or bending my arms, and that's not what we want to do. So you want to try and get as close as you can while maintaining form for this. Again, trying to do 12 to 15 reps of this. Try and keep it nice and controlled and take your time, don't push it too much because it can get a little bit strenuous, so nice and easy, and like I said, hands a little bit wider, ideally going for about this width to start off with, so see what you can do with your sarabande. So for this one, again, keeping everything engaged, I'm just going to hold my sarabande to my hip, but if you have a long enough one you can stand on it to keep it in place. And you're just going to start with your hand facing in the way, so I'm putting my thumb to my hip, keeping those shoulders engaged, and I'm just going to pull up, rotate, and pull back the way. Okay, and it gets a little bit easier closer towards the hip because mine is stopping, so it's better if you can stand on yours. But the point is that you're pulling all the way back, and right at the end of the movement, really pinching back with that shoulder blade so it slides down my back. And again, you can do 15 reps of these or 12 reps of these on both arms, keeping it nice and easy. If you're getting pumped, it's maybe too hard again. Okay, for this next one, you're going to need to take your sarabande and either attach it to a door handle or wrap it around your waist like so. What we're going to do here is we're going to do an external rotation exercise. So we're trying to turn out the way from the shoulder blade. So again, shoulder blades down. You want to make sure that your arm is staying tucked into your side the whole time and not flaring out at all, and that you're only going within your range of movement. So if I go out to here, you can see that my bicep is coming away. So I'm going to stop at this point. And you're just holding onto the sarabande with your thumb up, staying nice and tight and turning out the way. And what I'm really trying to focus on here is not letting my other shoulder creep up at all, so I'm not twisting to the side, moving your side on, I'm not rotating around, I'm staying quite straight. And just doing that small movement, whatever you're capable of, just stick with that. And again, both arms, 12 to 15 reps. Okay, and our final nice and easy sarabande exercise that we're going to do, it's again getting those shoulder blades going back, and we're only going to have to hold the banner in front of us. So I'm going to hold it a little bit wider than shoulder width just to make sure that I can get far enough. You're going to have your hands facing back the whole time, and you're just going to pull back on that band into a T position. And when you're doing this, you're pinching your shoulder blades together at the back and making sure you're really squeezing, and you can even hold it for a few seconds at the end to control it. Another way to do this would be to attach it to a door handle and pull back on that so that the band will be pulling back this way. It's a little bit more effective for pinching the shoulder blades together, but it's a little bit harder to do if the door handle is too low down. Like I said, if you have the facilities, then use them. If not, then you can do it like this. Okay, so now we've got most of our shoulders warm, we're ready to get onto the fingerboard and start doing some nice easy shrugs. These are just an exercise to get those lats working, because those are the muscles you usually engage when you're hanging, and we haven't really done anything to get them going yet. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get on a fingerboard and we're going to start pulling our shoulder blades in and out just to get those muscles activating. So you'll basically be hanging with bad form and pulling it into good form. So because we're not quite warm yet, we do want to make this nice and easy. So if you have something like this, which is a looped band, you can use this to take some weight off of yourself by looping it over the fingerboard, or if you have a pulley system set up, then you can use that, and it will just take a little bit of weight off of yourself to make it nice and easy. Just like we did with the sarabanding, it doesn't want to be super duper hard, you just want to be getting the muscles firing off a little bit. For myself, I'm going to use a chair in front of my Beastmaker board because I don't have anything like this. This band is not quite heavy enough for me, so I'm just going to put my feet on the chair and push myself up a little bit into the shrugs to make it a little bit easier. So when we're doing this again, we need to make sure that we have those shoulders engaged and coming in and out nice and controlled. They're not dropping down too quickly, they're not pulling in too fast, and we're keeping our core engaged the whole way through this. And we're just going to do about 10 reps, nice and slowly, holding it in for a few seconds at the top of the pull and lowering down nice and controlled. Okay, so once you've done a few of those shrugs, you can start to build up to the point where hopefully if you're going to be hanging with your feet off of the ground, you can do shrugs with your feet off of any assistance, where you're just doing it with your body weight. However, if you're not going to be hanging with your feet off the ground, then just stick to whatever level feels comfortable for those shrugs. Now that we've done this, our shoulders should be completely warm, but our fingers are not quite there yet. You can do what we did last week, where you just stand under the fingerboard and gently pull down on it, and you can just try and pull down a little bit more every time, or we can use that hangboard again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a way to do it with the hangboard, just to give you a bit of an example of how to do it at a nice easy low level and play really safe. But like I said, you can do it on the fingerboard and it's not that much different, you just have to be a bit more aware of how much you're pulling. Okay, so if you didn't see my last video, then you might be confused as to how I'm going to use a fingerboard differently to a hangboard. Instead of hanging from the hangboard, I'm going to be hanging some weights off of it and holding it in front of me and nice and down low. This is the hangboard I'm going to be using, and I have two paint cans here that are going to be my weights, and I'm simply going to clip the paint cans onto my fingerboard and hang them from the board. And it's just a nice easy way to get started. I haven't hung any weight off my fingers at the minute, I've just hung off my hands open-handed. So for me to jump on and start trying to pull down on a board, it's kind of risky, it's a bit unreliable, but if I can do this, I know exactly how much weight I'm going to be holding, and 10 kilograms is a lot less than my full body weight, so I know that it's going to be a nice and easy way to start warming up. Okay, so I've now attached my weights to my fingerboard, and I'm just going to do a few nice and easy hangs right in front of me. There's two ways that you can start. You can start in a drag position, which as you can see here, my wrists are nice and straight and my fingers are nice and open. So this is me not using my pinkies, and it's not engaging the pulleys that you have on your fingers either, it's just the tendons. So that's getting those tendons nice and warm. The next position would be a half crimp position. As you can see here, I've got all of my fingers bent in a nice 90-degree angle. It's not a full crimp, and that is just engaging those pulleys a little bit. So you can experiment with the two positions when you're warming up, but don't go for a full crimp just yet. So now I'll do my half crimp. And ideally I'm going to do these for about 15 to 30 seconds every time, and I'm going to do at least 5 of these hangs. If it gets a little bit easy, I can start to incorporate my finger glides with the weight, but I'll make the weight much lower, potentially only 1 or 2 kilograms, if you have that available. And if not, I would then start getting on that fingerboard and then starting to do those pull downs until the point that I'm at my maximum for the session, which again should be quite easy if you're just getting started, but if you're doing a different hang, then you should know how much you should be pulling down on it. Okay, so you should now be pretty much completely warmed up. That was just one way of getting warmed up for a fingerboard. There's a multitude of ways, but the key emphasis on it is to just take your time with whatever you're doing. Everything that I did, it was really low intensity and it was really high reps, just to really ease into it, not getting yourself pumped out at all, not overdoing it, because if you're doing repetitive exercises every time you're training, like fingerboarding, you need to make sure that you're really taking your time. I need to make sure that you're having enough rest in between, like I said last time. So go away, give them a shot. You can miss a few of them out, you can do what you want with what you have, but if you can get all of those tools, then it'll be really useful. And if you have any other ideas as well, just drop them in the comments for us below. That is all my tips for today. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and if you want to see more content, then check out Team BMC on YouTube.